Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about version 20.1 that has just gone live in North America. So, version updates are always exciting because in addition to hopefully quality of life improvements, there are going to be a wild host of various evolutions and upgrades, which I'll talk about shortly. So, the first major aspect of this update is changing the dungeon BGM or background music to whatever you like, assuming you've unlocked it. So this is going to function similarly to orb skins in the sense that it's a purely cosmetic thing that has zero implication on your ability to play or enjoy the game. Furthermore, like orb skins, the background music you select for one particular team is locked to that team. So if you change teams, the background music will be different. So you're able to potentially cater the music you actually hear for a specific team. Maybe you're playing a dark-based team and you want to have something that sounds a bit darker and spookier. I don't even think that's even possible. But the point of the matter is, it gives you, I guess, a little bit more creative flexibility. But at the same time, out of curiosity, how many people out there actually play with the pad game noises on? Because like I've actually played with it all the time on because when I stream or record it helps to avoid copyright issues, but I feel like a large chunk of players don't actually play with sound on, so I wonder how monumental this could be. And you just change the background music via clicking a button in the bottom right hand corner of your team selection window. In addition to that, we've had super or plus versions of various awakenings. So when Skill Boost Plus first came out, in my opinion, it kind of set a trend. It didn't really manifest for quite some time, but the idea is you have older awakenings that get combined together to be twice as valuable but only take up a single awakening slot, which means the card has more space to, have other awakenings. So we now have TPA Plus, which means it's double the effectiveness of a regular two-pronged attack. So basically, just whenever you see this plus symbol on top of that respective awakening, it just means there are two of them stacked up there. There's a skill charge plus, which lets you charge up your skills faster, auto recover plus, and then enhanced orbs of every single color along with hearts. Like, this is obviously quite a potential room for improvement for many cards because lots of cards had, like, say, numerous of these orb enhances, and they could be definitely condensed down in order to, access other awakenings and give more awakening diversity. I feel like the orb enhance is definitely a good spot for many cards to gain a bit more value in the future, or TPAs, because those are awakenings that tend to be, like, heavily saturated on cards to a certain extent. Like, say, Gung Ho Lakshmi. She's got tons of enhanced fire orbs. Hopefully, and the next Gung Ho collaborative run, which will obviously happen at some point, those awakenings get condensed down and she actually gets access to something else potentially more exciting. And now I want to talk about the new evolutions and upgrades, which is probably the most exciting part of this update overall. So, first things first, we have Skuld, who does not require any special gems. And before I go any further, many of the Godfest exclusives here will actually require special gems to make evolutions, and that's going to be offset by the fact that there'll be a new limited time dungeon coming this Friday. But for Skuld, you just need those giant or huge or large gems, and in her light form, she can have double 10 combo with the enhanced light orb awakenings. And then her active skill is a 2-turn cooldown. With a 2-turn cooldown, you have immense flexibility. You can inherit delay, haste, damage absorption, shields, whatever you need to have, it can be accessible on a regular and frequent basis. And then even if it doesn't, if you only just use the base active skill, you get to remove the orb blocks and create 3 light and hard orbs at random, and then plus 3 combos if you're on battle 5 or on. Like, it's not a terrible active skill. It does give you orb generation. It does let you heal. It does let you deal damage, assuming you're light based. So Skuld can definitely potentially find places on mono light teams. She could have triple 10 combo, which is excessive, I feel, for the most part, because her sub attribute isn't light. And I feel like without the VDP, it might go to waste potentially. For her dark form, I feel like the dark form is much more interesting overall because the awakenings just feel more solid. Like, you already have double 10 and VDP, and for the most part for monocolor teams, double 10 VDP is just an incredibly efficient awakening system because you get 25 times personal damage before the VDP, and it increases even more when you actually match that 3x3 box. It gives you bonus damage from multiple dark combos. She did take out, actually no, she just has actually 9 awakenings. I don't know why the Dark Skuld got more love than the Light Skuld. And then through Super Awakenings, you could get Super Poison Resist, or a Cross, or a Skill Boost Plus. So, pretty solid card all around when you just look at it from an Awakenings point of view. And then the active skill is a 6-turn cooldown that gives you an attack buff for leaders and helpers, no Skyfalls, and then removes Orb Block and changes the board to Water, Dark, and Hearts. I think this active skill is reasonable. Like, it's a 6-turn cooldown. It's kind of long-ish, but when you think about it, it's a board changer. So, when, like, we've come so far. I remember Tri-Elemental board changer used to be, like, 10 turns plus, and this gives a bit more zest. But now we've come to the point where mechanics are just so, like, slathered on to dungeons that, like, you need... Every card has to be able to counter a mechanic in some way, shape, or form. And Skuld, I feel like, is just not necessarily going to be able to do that as well, because she doesn't counter, like, RCV time or attack buffs. Like, it's not solving awakening binds, unmatchable, like shields, absorption. Like, it's not providing any one particular aspect aside from solving a terrible preemptive board, which could be overcome possibly other ways. So I think she's definitely great from an awakenings point of view, and in theory, like, it's not the most outrageous thing to try and evolve because it doesn't require a specific gem, which may be difficult to acquire. So I feel like if you do have mono dark teams, Skuld can definitely function well, but just be mindful of the fact that she's not actually going to counter anything unless you have, or unless you know there's going to be lots of bad preemptive board changers. For Reincarnated Cao Cao, he has double 10 combo VDP, so we already established that is a great set of awakenings. For damage, he's got 4 skill boosts total. Could get another 4, like 2 more skill boosts. Could get a 7 combo or an extra VDP, which is unnecessary. With the 7 combo and the 10 combos, that's 50 times personal damage, and he has a red sub-attribute, so it will do something meaningful. The active skill gives you a 2-turn delay and removes the board unlock, changes water and poison to fire. So Seawolf teams can't use him, but I feel like if you are playing content where there are multiple delayable spawns where delaying it actually makes a big difference, he can be a meaningful card to run on your given team. Because, like, if you think about it, there are some instances like, say, an MD1. There is Australis, who will have damage absorption for 3 turns, but they are delayable. If you delay them for 2 turns, you just wait out a little bit, and then the damage absorption drops down. You can kill them before they do their actual execute move. So instances like that are where this card can definitely find some value. And of course, when you look at the evolution requirements, this is very gentle by comparison. Like, in this day and age, it's a gentle evolution requirements. So I think he definitely could find a place if you know multiple delays are meaningful. For Super Reincarnate Inahime, I feel like they can be a great fit on Daytona teams because right now TPA is still, for the most part, heavily dominated by Daytona. Yes, you could make arguments that Ateli does like to make TPAs, but the problem is their active skill is not going to be very happy for you because it makes a board of fire, wood, and hearts. Ateli needs all 6 elements. It's going to be a lot of effort trying to spin that out. I wouldn't be as inclined to use it necessarily, and you have better clerics available. So for like Daytona teams, the TPAs do contribute. The wood sub-attribute will do some damage, but their active skill is a full bind, awoken bind, and unmatchable clear with the board changer with an orb unlock. So the board changer is fire, wood, hearts. Daytona converts fire to light. So assuming Inahime doesn't screw you over with just 3 light orbs out of 30 possible, you're going to be able to activate Daytona while clearing those nasty awoken binds as well. So I feel like as far as clerics go, it can be a good alternative to like Ame no Uzume because they both could have 4 skill boosts total, or if you didn't need the skill boost, you could get super resists. And like, sure, the RCV buffing was nice from Ame, but maybe you have Obi-Wan. Maybe you have other ways to solve RCVs. Like, Inahime could function there, but then Sheat later on is also a great option, which we'll get to eventually. Citri in her water form has double brick or double blob awakening, and that is monstrous because when you have the matching sub-attribute is going to deal a meaningful amount of damage because that is 144 times personal damage. A little absurd, and she could get more damage if she takes attack while below 50% or skill boost plus or OE plus. So, like, as a whole, if you have, like, blue blob teams, she could be a potential card just from an Awakenings point of view. For the active skill, as you know, Skyfall's wood orbs are unmatchable, so that actually solves unmatchable, because if you're a mono water team, you don't really need to match wood orbs when you really think about it. Maybe you're even taking wood orbs away to something else, so it can act as a pseudo solution there, which I do enjoy. And then it creates 5 water orbs and gives you a 50% health heal, which is pretty cool, but like 5 water orbs is definitely meaningful on a 3-turn cooldown. So you are solving some problems. You do get rid of no Skyfalls, you do get rid of unmatchable, you get that instantaneous heal, which might save you. So not a bad card overall. It's just I don't feel like we have any great water blob teams yet, but maybe that will change in the future. For her new weapon assist here, it gives you a devil type change and double combo orb. There are not many weapon assists out there that actually give 2 combo orb awakenings, and the changing the devil type could be situationally helpful. I don't know if there's any like specific team that needs to have combo orbs and be devil typing at the same time, but there might be, I could be mistaken, or just the fact that it is a double, combo orb weapon assist, that is pretty rare. And again, if you're playing any team that does utilize combo orbs and you're having a tough time fitting them in, maybe this one weapon assist could solve some of your problems. But the active skill is that low cooldown, which you probably don't want overcharging. This was kind of like out of left field for me. Like, I did not expect this like Wicked Lady to receive a evolution, but the farmable Wicked Lady is somehow got 5 7 combo awakenings, 2 enhanced dark combos, skill boost plus, and they are low rarity. So in theory, if you are needing to play something like that's like leveling up like Colosseums or like Alt MD2, this could be a potential card because they do give you actually a nice active skill. No Skyfalls to override those problems. 1.5 times orb movement time and replaces all orbs. So the orb reshuffle can get you out of a bad spot. It's a movement time buff. And assuming you're using this in conjunction with other like orb generators, the way to refresh the board and make a new board can help. It does technically counter, I feel like this is for like MD2 when I think about Alt MD2 in particular, like Orochi's preemptive lock board gets countered, all the time debuffs get countered, the no Skyfalls from the light melee gets countered. Like, not a bad card when I really think about it, and it could get 4 skill boosts or even more 7 combos. And remember, with double dark attributes, they do deal much more meaningful damage. I'm not quite sure how high their attack stat does go, but if you have 6, 7 combos, that's 2, that's 4, that's 8, that's 16, 32, 64 times personal damage. That's bigger, that's quite big. That's much bigger than double 10 combo. Obviously not as big as triple, but like a pretty large amount of damage overall. So maybe for Alt MD2, maybe a possible option. And the fact that it is farmable makes it all the more appealing. Fenrir's weapon assist gives you triple team HPs, and there are not too many weapon assists out there that give triple team HP, and it's a matter of finding like the other awakenings they provide in terms of giving you the most value. Like Image is the 5 million monster point card, which is still, I think, a good weapon assist. They give a skill boost instead of a god killer. So if you need, like, the skill boost, obviously Image works, but the god killing aspect can be meaningful in dungeons that are heavily god situated. Like a lot of endgame content does have many god spawns, so giving your card 3 times personal damage is a big boost. And it also gives a devil typing, which again could be meaningful. So like if you are running teams that must use devil cards, you can change a card to devil typing when they're not supposed to be, give them all that team HP so everyone is bulkier, and a god killer. So pretty powerful weapon assist, but the problem is this terribly low cooldown. I feel like if you leave it unskilled, it's a little bit easier to wiggle around with, but it's definitely riskier to let it overcharge because you probably don't want to have that active skill necessarily outside of niche situations where you can use it to overwrite Skyfall debuffs because you couldn't fit Poison or Jammer Surge, or the Awakening bind you before they do those nasty Skyfalls. For Dark Kali's weapon assist gives you the God typing and Guard Break. So Guard Break, for a long time, I kind of laughed at it for many years ago because there was hardly any instances where Guard Break was actually needed because we could just, hit it hard enough and things died. Nowadays, we're starting to see things with monstrous amounts of defense values, like huge amounts, and being able to like completely ignore it is one great aspect of Rainbow teams. Like if they had, say, like 1 or 2 billion defense, let's say, that owning card with Guard Break can completely ignore that defense and deal their full amount of damage. It definitely can open up possibilities for those rainbow-based teams, and of course, if you need that God typing, like say Alexander, if I'm not mistaken, wants God typing, it could possibly be helpful. For a 10, he gives you a God typing again, but he gives you Dragon and Devil Killer Awakening, which is pretty unique. Like, I feel like those are some of the more like desirable Killer Awakenings, and it's rare to actually have both of them at the same time, along with the ability to change your typing to gods. Remember, for transforming cards, they don't have the capacity to exceed the limit, like the damage cap of 2.14 billion. If they have these Killer Awakenings on top of them, they now have plus 20% to that limit increase, so about 400 million more per typing that it matches up. So if it's fighting, say, a dragon or devil spawn, it's close to 3 billion damage potentially because the damage break exceeds it when you have these Killer Awakenings. So possibly a way to layer on additional damage for your transforming cards. And the cooldown, assuming it's a transforming card, it should be okay to work with, because many transforming cards you tend to use their active skill on cooldown, so 5 turns plus whatever it is on skill does give you a bit of flexibility there. Cammy's weapon assist, God typing again, but 2 L's, follow-up attack, recover, bind. I feel like this is kind of missing the mark. It's a lot of odd awakenings. Like 1 L is nice, but 2 usually is kind of not necessary. Follow-up attack, almost everything has auto follow-up attack nowadays for the most part, but then again, there will be instances where, like, you know, maybe you have no way to get auto follow-up attack. Maybe it's a fixed leader challenge and you bring your own subs and weapons. Maybe it's a way to make it work. I think it's highly situational overall. Typhon's weapon gives you Devil, Balance, and Attacker Killer. So I think it's unusual, like 3 different unique killers that are not like, say, Evolution and Enhance, which are kind of situational for the most part. Unusual. Typhon does give you some meaningful value there, and of course, there's no drawback to this weapon assist when you really think about it. So again, if you know there's many of those spawns in a given dungeon, this could be an impactful weapon assist. Yogg's weapon gives you VDP and 40% poison resist. Cool. VDPs are starting to become a little bit more common, and you know, giving yourself 40% poison resist is helpful, and the active skill is a full bind, awoken bind, and unmatchable clear, so it can be helpful if you just use it once in the dungeon, or maybe you put it on your cleric who didn't have a VDP while still having meaningful damage. Possibilities are definitely there. For these Godfest exclusives, I feel like once I do get the gem, I'm going to make the weapon assist, stick them in my inherits folder, and then just have them ready for like whenever I might actually need it. Because like sometimes you may not need it for every instance, but it's good to have available. Kanna's weapon assist gives you a skill boost, TPA, and follow-up attack. A little underwhelmed by that. The active skill does give you attribute absorption cancellation, which, you know, does help a little bit for 2 turns. It does give you, or is it 2 turns or just 1 turn? No, it says for 4 turns. So 4 turns of attribute absorption cancellation with an attack buff and RCV buff and 2 turns of haste. You know, you definitely could potentially find leverage out of that, because there are instances where there might be color absorption early on. A good place is like MD2. Color absorption could screw you over on floor 2. And 4 turns lasting is great because you could pop it even on floor 1, and the haste will help you transform. You kill floor 1, and then as long as you have at least 2 turns left over for floor 2, you're guaranteed to be able to actually overcome it. So as far as a weapon assist goes, I think this weapon could definitely find some merits in MD2 when, you know, these aspects could be problematic. The RCV buff, well, you're probably using this on floor 1 to help you transform, but if you did save it for floor 2, the RCV buff could help you, I think, clear the RCV debuff on floor 2. So again, I think it's situational, but it could be meaningful overall if you know towards the start of the dungeon there is attribute absorption. Coyote gives you 2 enhanced wood combos and an L. I like the distribution more because 1 L can be meaningful. The double enhanced wood combos do propel your damage output. The active skill is a 1 turn haste, so I guess if it does overcharge, not the worst thing to help you get going as well. Gives you 6 hearts and wood orbs, and fully recovers awoken skill bind, so maybe it could have some merits there. Saphira received a buff to her awakenings. I think she gained a skill boost. I can't check because if I look now, it shows only the updated version. So if you know for sure, did it gain a skill boost? It helps. I like to think it did gain a skill boost, so it makes it easier to transform. And then when she does transform in her final form, she now becomes a 4 times effective health leader because it's 50% damage reduction and 2 times health, along with 2 times RCV. So in theory, double Saphira is 16 times effective health, and you have the RCV of 4 times as well. So like, definitely bulkier. It's great if you're just utilizing her in any way because you now have, you know, significantly more bulk. And bulk is a big deal to have. Cao Cao, his other forms receive the same active skill buff as his new super reincarnated form. Citri has received a slight overhauling of awakenings, but the problem is it doesn't have blob. Like, it's not water. So the brick awakening or the blob awakening, even because 2 of them, you don't get the sub attribute leverage. So I feel like it's a little less appealing overall in the fact that there's no good blob leader for her. Citri in her water light form has double 10 combo. Their active skill does give you an attack buff, a movement time buff, changes fire and wood to water orbs. So like, you know, if you don't have a good movement time buffer, it could be helpful. She does have 4 skill boosts. She does have meaningful personal damage. She could have 6 skill boosts. Possible usage there. Pixel Citri is basically like, I want to kill attacker type spawns so well, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attacker killers potentially. That's 27, 81, 243 times personal damage against attackers, and then double that because the single 7 combo. I think it's a highly situational card, but you know, maybe it's going to come in handy. Like maybe there's a dungeon where you need to farm and you just want to match one water combo. Citri blows it out of the water. Maybe it's a ranking dungeon. I'm going to totally make a Citri just to have it because, you know, 5 attacker killers is incredibly unique. Like it's highly situational, but like if you're like exceptional in one aspect, you might get some value out of it. Typhon's active skill has been buffed, but I don't feel like Typhon can really be utilized truly that well as a sub. Like, it's an attack buff for dragon types, an RCV buff, changes the board. It's not terrible, but it's not, like, amazing overall of a card. Yogg, his active skill was improved. I think it's like the weapon assist. The cooldown got lowered because 9 turns is actually quite strong for what it does for a bicolor board changer with the cleric aspect. The leader skill, I don't feel like it's going to be functional overall, so that's unfortunate. But as a sub, maybe Yogg could be your cleric. He doesn't have a sub attribute, unfortunately, but I guess he could have 6 skill boosts or more damage output. But without the sub attribute kicking in, it's not as meaningful. Canna has 4 skill boosts, blind resist, 10 combo, and 3 TPAs, and she can get another 10 combo. So double 10 combo, 3 TPAs, a light sub-attribute. Her damage output is actually quite meaningful, especially for your Daytona or Kaishu teams when you think about it. And it's that active skill that could be quite helpful if you know there's attribute absorption throughout the dungeon. It can be quite a nice thing to have. The haste obviously loses value later on in the dungeon, but at the beginning, it could be a good way to just transform and get yourself going. Because who knows, maybe, like, I don't know, like, it's a bit long. As a weapon assist, I found it a bit more appealing. As a sub, I think it's a little bit harder to justify unless there is lots of damage or color absorption. You know you need to counter it, but as a whole, like, it's a nice buff for Canna, who definitely languished and just not being relevant. Kaede has tons of VDPs and a potentially double 10 combo, but I'm not quite sure how we could really take advantage of all those VDP awakenings. And the active skill, sure, it makes lots of wood and hard orbs and awoken bind clear, but where can we really take advantage of all those VDPs? Does Nautilus need more VDPs? Is this even a good enough alternative to a cleric? Not really, because you don't have unmatchable clear. Unless you have something that does clear unmatchable for you. Sheat in her blue-red form, I feel like there's no great place to take advantage of Sheat for a TPA aspect. Like, this is big TPA damage with the 10 combo, and like, I'm not quite sure where we could utilize them. But when you think about it, that's an interesting leader skill. 4 times stats to machine types and huge auto follow attack. So like, it's kind of cool. Like, it's a looping Skyfall buff on a 5-turn cooldown. You are able to get water orbs at an enhanced rate and clearing light, hearts, and all hazards to water. It like, maybe, I don't know. Like, possibly. Her other form, blue, no sab attribute. Again, huge damage for TPAs, but I'm not quite sure where we can really utilize them. Like, again, like these fat stats, but no damage reduction tied to the leader skill. But I feel like their other form is more appealing because it's now an interesting cleric on a 5-turn cooldown. It's a full cleric act. Well, it's almost a full cleric, but for TPA-based teams, it's kind of full enough because it changes the outer columns to water and hearts, and then you get 4 non-water heart orbs converted to fire, and then you fully clear Awoken Bind skills. So the reason why I say TPA teams don't need unmatchables is because many times on your TPA team, you're going to have the unmatchable latent somewhere. And matching those TPAs will clear the unmatchable problems. So Sheat is now a 5-turn Awoken Bind clear, and you're clearing unmatchable by just, you know, matching orbs through like your other cards potentially. So I feel like for Daytona teams, this is a great upgrade. Again, like, you can also pseudo increase their bulk by matching the Heart L. Like, matching that Heart L will give you a little bit more damage reduction. But you know what? Daytona teams, a part of the issue is struggling with reaching health thresholds, and this can be a way to, you know, increase your effective health a little bit. And for like things like, say, Shura 3, where it is all attribute requirements, Sheat is definitely going to be great because it's covering water and fire. Probably attributes you didn't want to bring anyways, and like, those TPAs do contribute to Daytona's active skills. So like, as far as a cleric goes for color coverage, I think it definitely has usage. I do utilize them on my Daytona quite often for, I think, Shura 3 or Worlds of Carnage. I think it's one of my go-to clerics for Daytona teams, so it's nice to see that they did receive a notable buff. Eshimali is triple 10 combo with 4 super enhanced Dark Orb pluses, so potentially large amounts of personal damage. It'd be nice if it was Dark Dark, of course. The active skill is a 5-turn cooldown that gives you Dark Orbs appearing as a Dark Orb Skyfall buff and changing wood and hearts and hazards to dark. So, like, if you need a Dark Skyfall buff and something that hits hard, I guess you can make the argument that Eshimali does work well there. They can get skill boost plus or more OEs, maybe. Eshimali in her dark no sub-attribute form has the brick, and I'm not a big fan of cards that are bricking without, like, you know, another sub-attribute. It's not even double brick anyways. It's 777 combo. It's not even as high. Maybe if it's a god kill, I don't know. It's just like there are definitely stronger options available, I feel. For Eshimali in her dark light form, her mega awoken form, again, it can kill attacker type spawns. It does give you a dark and hard orb skyfall buff for 99 turns, which I guess is kind of cool. But maybe you might get more value out of that as a weapon assist, because as a weapon assist, it's 2 enhanced dark orbs, 2 skill bind resist, which could be invaluable if you are missing skill bind resist, and full bind immunity, while also giving you 99 turns of dark and hard orb skyfall. Not the big, by the word slightly, it makes me think it's 7%, so it's not a huge buff, but you know, it's actually not bad because every orb has, I think, like 16-ish% by default, so increasing those to 23% each, it's almost 50% chance for a dark or a hard orb to fall down, so it does become a reasonably noticeable improvement, I feel, overall, if you need these awakenings as well. But at the same time, the active skill, it doesn't like get you going for terms of transforming. Paimon has potentially some brick or blob potential. They do make 6 light and hard orbs and 1 turn of haste and all orbs enhance, but not solving problems, like no awakening buying clear, no unmatchable. I think that's going to be just difficult to use them even on your blob based teams because, well, like, I guess they could double damage cap, but like double damage capping just happens relatively easy nowadays to a certain extent, I feel. And like this attack set could, I don't know how high, I forgot how high it gets when it gets leveled up. I don't know why they don't show level 120 stats. It's kind of unfortunate. Paimon in his light water form has double 10 combo, super blind resist, that same active skill that doesn't technically solve any mechanic problems. So I feel like it's just a little awkward potentially. Mega Awoken Paimon has a bit more damage output with the 10 combo Super Awakening. They do avoid attribute and damage absorption for 3 turns. So I feel like Paimon in his Mega Awoken form, you can make some arguments that for maybe dungeons where there are no inherits allowed, he could be a respectable solution because it does last for 3 turns and like they can deal respectable amounts of damage output. So maybe in that instance, maybe. Dantalion in his red no attribute form can deal large amounts of personal damage with the double brick or blob awakening, has combo orb, has enhanced fire orb pluses, like possibly. It does have haste. I don't feel like it's not enough to keep a system of haste going on. Like Shiva Dragon system is just a better system overall, I feel. So maybe his other forms might have more value. His red dark form has double 10 combo, 3 enhanced water fire or pluses, can get a cross or like tape or L shield. I don't know, like situational I feel overall. His fire water form I think is the most advantageous overall because it does synergize great with Seawolf for the colors lining up. He has 777 combo and can get another 7 or another 10, or a 10 combo. And with the 10 combo, he goes up to 8 times 5 is 40 times personal damage with a VDP with 4 skill boosts. That's actually not bad overall, but you just have to be mindful of the fact that their active skill could screw you over for Seawolf because it could overwrite water, which I think obviously is a bit of a drawback. Like, you might overwrite your water orbs, which I think is a little alarming, but maybe it's a risk you take. It does give you RCV and movement time buff, and the damage output will be high because the sub-attribute does do meaningful amounts of damage on Seawolf teams, or maybe even just other mono fire teams, because when you think about it, having an RCV and a movement time buffer is actually quite powerful, along with a board unlock and 3 heart and fire orbs being generated. So I feel like this form would be the one I would probably utilize more often overall. For their weapon assist, it's got 60% jammer resist and the enhanced fire combo. It's got that same active skill, which I don't think is quite as meaningful on a weapon assist. I want something a bit more high impact, and I just use it once and not again. Reach does become quite more powerful overall. Like, they do gain more damage output, And they are a great solution for rainbow-based teams, especially ones that do have some incentive to match TPAs. But I feel like their other form is a bit more exciting overall. They've got 3 skill charges essentially here. So it's a 4, they can charge up their active skill. Like every turn could be 4 turns charging up. So it's potentially 9 turn cooldown for 5 turns of attribute and damage absorption cancellation. That's pretty meaningful. And their super awakening is another 5 attribute awakening. So double 5 attribute, double 7 combo. That's actually a large amount of personal damage for rainbow-based teams. And it's going to charge up quickly. It's got almost a semi-loopable active skill. So if you don't have New Year's Reach, regular Reach still works quite well because their damage output is still quite high when you think about it. So nice buff there overall. Their weapon assist, it gains a bit more stats. Cool. But the weapon assist, I mostly use it for the active skill if I needed 5 turns of absorption cancellation. And then the last notable thing about this update is new limited time dungeons arrive. So basically, if you are frustrated trying to get those Godfest exclusive gems to evolve all those cool cards, well, you now can play a limited time dungeon starting on this coming Friday, where you can get 7 or 6 star Godfest exclusive gems to drop. And that is a big deal because maybe you might get that blue Albrecht gem which you've been hunting for months. Maybe it's going to happen. The advantage of this dungeon is that it's fast. You can potentially swipe through it, and I'll try and post a team and composition for it like when Friday does roll around. But like that is, you can play it fast. It does cost lots of stamina, but you get it done. You get the drops. You don't have to like slog through a long dungeon. Like your disappointment will come faster if you don't get the gem you want, at least. So it's an exciting time overall. And this new dungeon does feature super gravity, which is basically a way to like nerf our damage output. So in the case here, the 6 star fest, it's going to have your attack values fall to 1%. So obviously like damage outputs are going to be smaller, so killers do definitely go a long way, or even cards that you thought were like excessive damage dealers now become much more meaningful because, you know, their excessive damage becomes accessible now in the sense that like it does contribute a bit more like a more meaningful amount of damage overall. So those are all the new updates for version 20.1. So let me know which aspect you found most exciting in the comments down below. Are you excited for the new evolutions or the gem evolution or the Fierce Fighters cave? Like, I'm excited for this one personally, but let me know what you are excited about. Regardless of all that, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pet adventures, and happy puzzling.